Welcome back to Deep Thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, from this really funky angle. There's so much wind going on in Southern California right now that it's every fucking day, man. For weeks and weeks and weeks, which is one of the reasons why recording has been very difficult. So I'm in this little nook in my backyard. And it's still a little windy, but much better. So today we're going to talk about the mechanic that I think is really going on and expand up from a movie made in the mid-90s called Wag the Dog with Robert De Niro. Wag the Dog is about a movie that is exactly what we are seeing today. An absurd level of fake footage being portrayed as history for the world to see. And what's funny about it, aka interesting about it, is that in that movie there is a area very similar to the area in trouble right now over there. And they composite this picture of a little orphan girl running through this bombed out city, and then they blue screen in, they use the blue screen to composite that in, and it just looks like the footage you're seeing today on the internet. So, again, you have never, ever seen in your lifetime even 1/4 of this level of deception on TV in your life. You have never, ever seen it this intense. It is one FF after another. They take photographs and they flip them horizontally, and then they're from 10 years ago, and they publish them as if they're today, because no one in America knows what the Ukraine looks like on average, and so they just take movies, they take video games, they take all this shit and keep submitting it as real. I guarantee you what you think you're seeing is a complete dog and pony show. And I'm not saying that the other side who's attacking is giving us credible information either. Who knows, right? The only group I think that knows are the citizens, and they're coming out going, they're using us as human shields, man. They're bombing us in the middle of the night. So it's bad. It's super duper bad. But what I want to impress upon you in this episode is something I'm not hearing from anybody, which is that Wag the Dog was a theory that there's one size fits all news back in the day because you didn't have people watching things like they do today, right? Especially running off to alternative media and that kind of thing. Today they craft messages for each demographic. And I mean, it's probably in increments of no bigger than 4 years. So if you're 10 years old, they tell you something to make you believe what they need you to believe because they want you to grow up. And when you hit 30, they want that little seed they put in your 10-year-old to be at a certain point. And they have a heartbeat with that person. So when they turn 14, they get a new narrative that jives with the 10-year-old narrative. And so everyone's in a multi-dimensional chess game of listening to WAG methods for their demographic. So a 15-year-old, a 20, a 30, a 40, a 50, a 60, and an 80. It's all distributed so that everyone gets to hear what works with their background. So a person who's 70 was generally born in the 40s at this point. They know what you saw as a child in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and they knew how old you were and how formative those messages were. So if you're born in 1945, for instance, your super duper suggestibility phase is between 1945 and 1965. Maybe even 64, where you graduate and you're 18 years old. So they know you start hardening after that point. Then they understand whether or not credit cards were new to you or not. I mean, they understand generally whether or not you were single or married or divorced. They know all these things, and so they tell you what you need to hear. Now, eventually, it will get to a point where they will be able to so target you that as you search the web, they're going to know your full detailed demographic from Facebook, from all your social media posts, from your criminal record, what you bought to eat, and what you're going to get back from Google is going to be a machine learning return that basically incorporates your profile with their intended destination for your demographic, and they're going to sway you into that demographic. It's as if you're in a simulation like the holodeck in Star Trek, but you walk in and instead of saying what you want to see, it dictates a brand new world for you based on where they want you to want to be. In my opinion, I think that, America, without a huge shot in the arm of, one, a very dark thing to wake people up, and then a very positive bounce back, we're not going to get the full consciousness that we need. Why do I say it that way? Well, you're people who are ignorant, who are taking the drink left and right and believing everything that they're told. And 3 years ago, their government was not, or even say 10 years ago, so get out of the 45 envelope. But 10 years ago, they know their government doesn't care about them in this particular sense of their health. But underneath the guise of a push narrative, they're willing to believe it for the first time. And I want to make a distinction with a demographic that's very, very powerful. This is based on, if you want to repeat this formula moving forward, here's how the formula works. Whatever the average lifespan is, subtract about 15 to 20 years. Probably more like 15. Definitely 10. So if today your average expectancy is 80 years old, if you're a male, then it's definitely going to start at 70, but it's probably activating around 65, depending on how you get swayed by these narratives. And here's the game. They know how your mind withers as you get older. And there's people with strong constitutions with this does not affect, so they're a minority in this society. When you get older, you're no longer seeing the world as you did as a young person, where you're envisioning your future. What are you going to conquer this year? What are you going to accomplish in the next decade? Gosh, I'm going to get that car, I'm going to get that house, I'm going to get that girl, that guy, or whatever. You're settling into your twilight years, your golden years, where the sun is setting, right? And so when that algorithmic change happens, you have a whole different view on things. And what you want to do naturally is you don't want to die in a world that is in absolute peril. That you don't want to read something on the internet that says that everybody's going to die and then have a heart attack the next day. So in order to ensure that you don't have that misery, it's all a flesh body thing. As soon as you die, you're okay, right? Because you're in your soul and you're gone out of this thing and you laugh it all off. But this is what we do as human beings to prepare for that death moment. They start to accept the Kubler-Ross final stage. They start to join the darkness and they start to accept everything that's around them, no matter if it's good or it's bad, because they want to believe that the world is a good place when they die. I've also noticed with a friend of mine who's he talks a big game, but he is a very, very cowardly person when it comes to death. It just scares him like a little boy, but he's in his 70s. He's just terrified of death, man. And I got another friend of mine who's on the edge of his 70s, and he's like, he doesn't care anymore, man. He's like, I know I'm okay. No matter how it goes, I'm okay, But this other dude is just terrified. He's sucking on his finger, hugging his blankie. And that dude is trying to accept everything that's around him, all this crazy shit. Won't do any research. As soon as there's a new thing to worry about, he's like all the memes where, the Corona Olympic runners handing the baton to the Ukrainian war runner. He's right there to swallow it. And it doesn't matter what crazy shit they come up with next, saying that the effects of the drink are climate change fucking problems. He'll be right there to suck on that exhaust pipe of complete bullshit. So that's another factor. Why do I make that distinction? I make that distinction because whatever the algorithm is for the life expectancy of any one gender being 2, and say it's 65 and up for men today, I think that's being generous, they're going into that crazy lunatic stage of acceptance, accepting evil because they don't want to acknowledge it, right? Now here's the thing, 64 and below, we're still in future mode. We're still in future mode. And so they manipulate us completely different. There's a huge... put it this way. How many times have you seen movies that dramatize this, where it's... They put a guy... They hold a guy prisoner, and he's fallen in love with the female interest in the movie, and they have the gun against her head, and he won't say what he's supposed to say. And then they just say, I'm going to shoot this woman if you don't tell us what we need to hear. And the guy always caves, right? Why is he caving? Well, empathetically, one, he doesn't want the girl to die. But if, like, Lex Luthor's going to blow up the whole world, then killing her to save the world makes sense. Go ahead and kill her. I'm sorry, babe, but we got to save the world. But the thing is when he falls in love with the girl, the idea is he wants to sleep with that girl. He wants a life with her. And so the threat is his future. If they were both 80 years old, he's going to be like, all right, you good, right? And the chick goes, yeah, go ahead. Fuck that guy. Pow, they all die. And Dr. Evil doesn't get what he wants, right? So what are the mediums that they use? Outside of the obvious mechanisms, right? A telephone, a tablet, a computer, a TV. It's important to look at what's actually showing on these devices to understand exactly where you need to watch out for your kids and for yourself. Because remember, you are good at what you do, and there's the other statement, you are what you eat. Well, eating is a metaphor when it comes to your health. You eat shitty food, you're going to get a shitty body. You put shitty things in your brain, you're going to get a fucked up head, right? So obviously when you're a little kid, one, they convince parents to give kids digital devices today. The ramifications of that go so far beyond what the average public believes. Imagine a network of antennas that's been spread all over your neighborhood that operates at 1 billion hertz. Your child's body is at 5 to 9. Not 5 to 9 billion. 5 to 9 is in one digit written on a piece of paper. As in, you could count it on your hands, right? Your child's starting to play a game. The cell service pimps out that data that application has launched on the sofa in your front room, and your child is sitting there playing that device. And now, if they want to manipulate your child, kill them, change their mind, affect their body in some way, the antennas can now triangulate a bunch of beams right there onto your sofa in a nice 3-foot sphere affecting your child's brain. Doing all kinds of stuff, and it happens to you too. If you happen to watch controversial content on your telephone, and the carrier, Apple, Android, etc., pimps that data out to the deep state, they can start hitting you where you are, okay, and affecting you, making you feel sick, doing the Levico technique, right, from Clockwork Orange, giving you a negative feeling when you see content they don't want you to see. They can also just give you diabetes by vibrating your insulin in your body so it doesn't wrap around your sugar, giving you insulin shock and sugar shock, So, the game is being played at a much higher level than normal human beings can even conceive. But what do kids look at? They look at little video games. There's a little bit more quarantine because the content's usually pretty stupid and it goes in a circle. Might be fun, but I play a lot of stupid games too. Second, cartoons. What's interesting about it is we now know The Simpsons has some real weird hookup with the Matrix, right? The amount of shit that they have predicted is utterly incredible. I mean, it's way beyond that conspiracy card game thing, which just basically took all the things that have been portrayed in movies and drew cards of them. Not that impressive, in my opinion, the Illuminati game. But The Simpsons is crazy. They get camera angles correct. They get people correct. My friend Sid dies and tells his partner, when you see the unicorn, that'll be me coming back to say hi to you. And then within the week, his partner sees the unicorn in a shot, and there's no story connected to the unicorn, and it just focuses on this unicorn in the middle of this shot. What? It's like Simpsons is like some show that's being broadcast through the Truman Channel, right? It's fucking crazy, man, right? So they can get your kid at an adult level watching cartoons like The Simpsons, and they can get your kid at a, was it the Rugrat thing? I mean, whatever is the most popular cartoon for kids at the bottom of the feeding. You just keep marching up, and then kids get into like TikTok apps and Snapchat apps and dirty apps. They can always search on content that they're not supposed to see, and it's just a matter of telling the browser, yeah, let me see that mature content, and now your 8-year-old is seeing content that you didn't see until you were 40. I mean, how they could even understand what the hell they're looking at. It blows me away. So this is in super duper high gear, and it's been going for a long time. But every single day that goes by, you have to understand that they have been maturing the big machine learning, which I'll describe in just a second here, to craft a from-to destination manipulation of who you are as a person by using big machine learning. So let's talk about big machine learning for a second here. It is a very complex thing to describe, but it is essentially the laws of probability and statistical analysis for how things have occurred in nature. And so, for instance, if you want to turn on a, let me think of a good one here. Okay, so you own Disneyland and you want to figure out the most efficient way to configure the lines so that the most patrons go through the ride and don't submit a complaint later that they had a bad experience. So initially you have to teach the big machine learning all the metrics that are contributing to the factors of what you're trying to get at. So it would be, how was the line physically organized, right? Because they could put little ropes up and stuff. What was the average attendance that day? What was the average of people from attendance that went through the ride? What was the weather like that particular day? Were there any mechanical difficulties in other rides that day, thus forcing crowds to get to the ride that they wouldn't normally ride because Splash Mountain was down and they're trying to look at Pirates of the Caribbean? So they keep dialing in every metric. Who were the employees that worked that day? Seriously, how much food do people buy of a particular brand? They put everything in there they possibly can until they find the most people that went through the Pirates of the Caribbean without submitting any type of complaint via Yelp or some customer service interface, right? So the computer will study for years. I mean, it actually happens in seconds, of course, but it'll study years and years of data and then come up with a set that goes, this is the best configuration you've ever had. And based on the time of day and the weather, these are the best configurations we have found for a rainy day, a sunny day, a cold day, a windy day, a perfect day. Okay. Then you get that little prediction output, and it's worth millions, right? But they keep it on all day long to study it moving forward, and then they can predict, yep, this is going to be one of the rougher days. This is going to be a sweet day. It's all going to work out. I mean, everything's following it, the metrics perfectly, right? Now imagine, because the from to is people walking in the front door, going through that ride and being happy the entire experience, right? When they come out with big smiles on their face. If they want you to believe a certain way, and they don't think you believe that way right now because of the opinions you've expressed online, studying the keywords of what you've said at an incredible three-dimensional level of your language, they will look at people who believe the way that they want you to believe and the information that they digested. And they'll also have metrics for people who used to believe the way you believe and now believe the new thing, and they'll study everything that they ingested. And so then they push that towards you. And the big machine learning system is figuring out exactly what to give you to sway you. And, if you had a sampling of 100,000 people and 25,000 people, you all started in the same anti-narrative, and then all these people in this sample ended up in the narrative, but there was 4 distinct paths that people took. The second that you try to change your mind, they just put you in that other category and they start talking to you different. And if you pop way back over to the first one, they start talking, and they just keep just herding you into that narrative, giving you the information that made everybody else finally flip and accept everything. So now let's actually talk about some probable statistical likelihoods. So I just said 100,000 people divided into 4 demographics. I'm going to say it's probably 3 billion people divided up into probably 100 million different categories for any one narrative. This is all automated in the system using data from Twitter, from Instagram, from Facebook, from Google, from YouTube, everything. They could even track all your traffic to Rumble if you use Chrome, right? You never want to use their products. They're fucking tracking everything. Every single time you launch a product or an operating system and you say, yes, I'll contribute my user data to you to make things better. That is you validating them stealing your traffic of everything that you do, launching an application, watching a piece of porn, watching a movie, ripping a movie online for free and stealing it. I mean, they got you by the balls if they really wanted to take you out. So that's an example of one demographic. So now, that's the horizontal line of dividing you up from all the decisions you can make. Then you have to stack it for every single year that a human being is generally sentient, which I would say probably 8 years old is their starting point, and then all the way to death. And so it's truly a three-dimensional chess game that they're playing with you using computers to steer you. And I'll tell you that, a lot of you will hear that and you're like, yeah, I get that. But I'm so steadfast to my belief system, they're never going to change my belief system. Well, there's a couple ways they go about it. They go about it with repetition, of course. That's the fastest way of brainwashing. For some people, it's just peer pressure. But if you were saying the former statement, you're definitely not peer pressure bound. But although, when they affect your buddies that you thought had strong constitutions, it starts to get in on you. It starts to get a little thing in on you. You're like, well, maybe they aren't, right, and this whole thing has been bust. The reason why I believe the number movement is potentially complete bullshit, although there are supporting arguments opposite, is for the reason that the second technique that can get you to change your mind is a lack of progress. What is hope? Hope is again, I did a whole episode on it called Hopeology. Hope is a bunch of bullshit, right? Hope is a way for you to accept not doing anything and not expecting anything from your world to change, right? When you hope, you sit on your hands and do nothing while the enemy comes at you and spites you and destroys you, right? So by that 17 movement disappearing on December 8th, 2020, and not figuring out one way to come back and talk to you, although in Truth Social, apparently one of the very first accounts registered is the single letter of 17, and it's not possible to register a single letter username, so someone in the company registered that letter. And it's one of the first accounts that was created before 45's account. So we'll see, right? But they could just be playing games with us now, right? But a lack of progress will tear down any paradigm that you think is actually going to take place. Because they keep telling you to sit on your hands and do nothing. It's all under control. Nothing can stop what's happening. And that's just a statement that could be true. But what the fuck is going to happen, right? Is Klaus Schwab going to get his weird Jean-Benet Ramsey lingerie beach shot world? Or are we going to get the one that we know we deserve because we're sovereign beings, right? So them just delaying the plan is enough to disturb the constitution of those that are necessary to win the plan. Because even if a bunch of people are in some mountain somewhere and they've been locked down for 2 years, supposedly, they might fail and they might need some support from the outside. It could be too late. The one guy that's got the silver bullet or the one girl who's got the silver conversation tongue who to sway the masses has given up and moved on, or caved in so badly she took the drink or he took the drink and they're dead because of the poison they put in their body. That's why it's a real slippery slope to assume that everything's going to turn out great when there's no progress. It's evident, right? So when applying this to what's going on now, we obviously have all the evil people in the world telling you that one leader in the world is the worst guy in the world, right? These are the leaders that gave you the drink. These are the leaders that have been taking away your rights over the last 2 years. These are all the bona fide scumbags on this planet telling you that guy in Russia is really bad. So, Aesop fable, boy call wolf, how much information do you need to understand that if your enemy's calling someone a bad guy, well, they're probably not as bad as you think. They may not be perfect. They may have other weaknesses. But the fact that they're going after this dude when he doesn't have anything to do with their clubs seems very evident that he's more on the good side than on the bad side. There are these places over there that make poisons. And, the report is that they were destroyed in the first wave. It can't be done that way. It cannot be done that way, right? So you can't go in and blow up a bunch of barrels of bioweapons. You can't. It goes in the air and then it distributes all over the lands and everybody's dying. You can't do it that way. You got to go in surround the place, bust the door down, go inside, grab the paperwork, grab the laptops, the computers, whatever, see what they're doing, grab samples out of refrigerators. I mean, just everything you can possibly do. Then, and you have to have that planned out because you got to transport that stuff. Then you have to know what you're blowing up. Will a bomb exacerbate the problem, or will it kill it? If it's a living thing, perhaps. But when you have a protein virus like mad cow, for instance, blowing up a big supply of that stuff would just simply spread it all over the area and everybody would get a protein virus, which cannot be wiped out with a bomb. At least that's what I was told by a PhD, Stanford University genius in virology. So, I've seen, again, like I said in the opening, just the most incredible real-time revision of history I've ever seen in my life. In my life. I mean, in a matter of 48 hours, we had more fake news articles than I've ever seen. The woman with the bloody head band was from 2018 gas explosion. You got television shows where soldiers are saying goodbye to their girlfriends portrayed as happening in some airport. You got explosions all over the place that are from previous events up to 10 years ago. Because no American knows what Ukraine looks like again, they can just show you anything and everybody will believe it, right? You have live feeds. Live feeds with, cityscapes in them. And there's a huge explosion in one and nothing on the other one. Because it's all been superimposed right there on the horizon line. We're being wagged at a level that is really an IQ test at this point. In terms of the drink, it's a fucking amazing thing that they still have people waiting to get their fifth drink, right? Their fifth drink. One of my close buddies in Hollywood, very famous guy for animation, he posted this profile of a buddy of his who just died at 65, apparently of, the thing. And he's just like, God dang it, why didn't you get the vaccine, man? And of course his brown-nosing followers are all, I don't even know anybody who isn't vaccinated. It's like, oh my God, dude. There's no test that makes it accurate. People fucking die. Did he get remdesivir to shut down his kidneys, fill up his lungs with fluid so they could say it was pneumonia too? But a friend of mine, once I told her that story, she goes, well, we're down to pretty much everybody's going to get the drink has it, and everybody who wasn't going to get it is never going to get it. I have to agree with her 100%. I mean, maybe the 1% that'll flip-flop. They're now saying that, the doctors who are independent, who are intelligent, they're essentially saying that 9 months from now, or 9 months from your last drink, especially the booster kind, you're going to start having issues. And one of our friends, like acquaintances, just reported in that he caught shingles recently. And that's because his immune system is starting to die, right? But a lot of doctors think it's going to take 12 months. 12 months before we start seeing this VADES happening, right? Our VP here in the United States is the most embarrassing human being to ever be filmed on a stage. I mean, she makes the women in The View look like speed rappers, man. She is the most discombobulated, absolutely. I mean, we're talking like clinically fucking retarded woman. They cannot complete a sentence as if she wrote it herself. I mean, just unbelievable inability to act. Again, Dan Quayle, he looks like MLK compared to Harris. I mean, she's awful. Poopy Pants Biden, well, he's got 3 or 4 body doubles for sure. There are scenes where he wears the mask all the time because it allows him to conceal the doubles, right? There's shots where it looks like some dude's got a prosthetic hairpiece on and it's falling off on the left side of his head. We know there's tons of CG scenes where his neck looks really weird because it's a deep fake, live fake podium speech. He walks through a building and half his body goes transparent. I mean, it's... and this is not people creating their own videos. This is them ripping it from the mass media sources and just looking at it and going, oh my God, There's rumors the White House is going to be blown up, torn down. Not blown up as in bad, but demolished. And that's why they've surrounded it. They say they're repairing a fountain. Sure, it's taking a long time to repair the fountain, right? Wouldn't you cordon it off and then start construction? And what are you going to do? I mean, Jesus, why would you need to put a barrier around that? I mean, I could see like putting a barrier around it to avoid embarrassing pictures of the White House. But it's like when construction guys want to do things, they can go super fast. We had earthquakes here in Los Angeles in '94. We had a gigantic overpass fall. I mean, one of those ones that's up there like 80 feet, if not 100 feet. And man, they had it fixed in like 45 days. So when they want to move fast, they can move fast. Ask anybody who does that kind of work. The truckers are still driving. Ted Cruz got in the truck, and I don't trust that guy to save my fucking soul, man. I think he's just a condom for the deep state whenever he needs to do what he does, pretending to be conservative, of course. We'll see. Again, the purpose of that whole thing in the United States is dwindling. Obviously, there's mandates they want to get rid of and stuff, but it's just being fought at so many different levels. So 100 points for patriotic duty. I hope they affect some change. 10 countries just dropped out yesterday or this morning from having any restrictions for travel to their country. Yes, that's good. But there's this little rumor out there that this country that's got the problem right now, right? Starts with a U, ends with an A. It hasn't registered its proper paperwork since 2001. Meaning it is not a legitimate country as we know countries on this planet. What does that mean, and why would that be important, and why would that ever be allowed to happen? Well, we have things called international law. And if you have no international association with the rest of the world, then you can do whatever you want, and it's the Wild Wild West. It's like Deadwood, South Dakota. So I think they like it that way. Plus, the country's packed full of resources. So you want to steal, rob, kill, whatever, no problem. You're not really in a country. Oh, yeah, the idiots of the world will call it that name, but they're not real. When the actor, a.k.a. president of that country, applies to the EU, it's only a matter of hours before they tell him, sorry, dude, you can't just come on board. Partially, I mean, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't they? They're all sitting there saying this is the worst thing in the world. Why wouldn't they bring him on board really fast? Well, because this country isn't legitimate. Because if they do bring him on board, because say it's easy to file that paperwork, a bunch of people become international felons. One of which is the President of the United States. Or at least the 46 dude, right? And his son, and a bunch of other people. Foundation people. God, I'm smoking this Monte Cristo just to pause for a second. It's like, this is like the worst smoking experience ever. Sucking on this thing and nothing's happening. Here, I switched to a Rocky Patel. Now it's working. We're finally starting to see some of the violence as a result of CRT in this world. Kids actually getting in trouble, thank God, for attacking other kids for racist reasons, thinking the school is going to give them a pass for doing so because the school basically told them that that was okay. But the other wag the dog element that I want to bring up here is that they do things just to divert you away from things that matter. And they do it on purpose. And like one of the big ones is, I think, is the Florida debate about, I think it's Disney organization. There's a bill that was trying to get passed a couple months ago where you're not allowed to say gay. When if you just ask someone what's LGBT stand for, they're trying to outlaw you saying the second letter. What the hell sense does that make? Right? I know they've added the Q back in. That's fine. Whatever you want to call yourself, that's fine. But for someone writing a law, trying to outlaw a word in the world? What are you, crazy? Again, like I've always said, if anybody uses a word that is horrible, that we all agree is not a good word, you need to have those people say those words so you know what kind of person they are. If you block it out, well, then they can hide. And you know what? They'll just make another word up. And it's weird how certain words get associated with things, right? The G word was associated with homosexuality on male level because I guess it was A man acting a little bit more happy and flamboyant in a world where men were very stoic. Okay. The Q was used because it was confusing that a man would act that way. So I get how those two words got associated. The one that's interesting is the F-bomb for, and I don't mean when it ends with UCK, but AG, or AGGOT. I could never figure out why cigarettes in the UK were called the F word, right? Until I figured it out. And it is that when you smoke tobacco, it makes you relaxed. And it's interesting that the N word and the F word for cigarettes / homosexuality, which is just a stupid word. It means kind of tired or lazy, right? You smoke tobacco, relaxes you. Do you have one of those things that makes me relaxed? Do you have an F, A-G, right? And so that's why that is called that. Now, why they would say that you were an F-A-G-G-O-T? Well, it's because I think that males that are holding up the male archetype and working hard and providing and fighting in war and stuff, if you didn't do those things, then you're being lazy as a male, aka you're a lazy person. The other one is the N-word. The N-word being used towards black slaves, and then all the way up to this point now. It doesn't make any sense. The N-word means lazy. Well, you know it originated when the slaves came over. European plantation owners came in to infiltrate the United States in the South, forming the Democratic Party. They come in and they buy up the land because they automatically have all the riches from Europe to do what they're doing. They buy up the land, they build the biggest houses, they hire staff, they hire a bunch of slaves, and the staff keeps the slaves in check with guns. The slaves can't have any education, can't have any religion, can't have anything, right? But they work all day in that field, whatever they're doing. And the lazy guy is on the frickin' porch with his inheritance, telling other people to work. And the irony and the unbelievable nature of this N-word is that the guy who's the laziest one in the world is calling the hardest workers in the world lazy. The N-word guy is back there on the patio. See how they twist everything around? It's nuts. So I think those agendas, for instance, are simply there to keep you busy. To keep you busy, looking away from what you're supposed to be doing. So you got to be careful not to allow that to occur. Now, the other one that's happening is sort of in the realm of hopeology, which is places like SpaceX, right? Well, everything in the whole world sucks except for this guy who is doing it. And he might be legit. I'm just throwing this out there, okay? When Walt Disney released Snow White in 1936, during the height of the Depression, this is the first lip-synced cartoon. It is animated to a level that nothing's ever been animated before. It's animated to look realistic. But you could walk out of a soup line, watch a movie that is not shot in black and white. It is not, I mean, this is 3 years before Wizard of Oz, man. And you saw a world that you needed to see. You needed to escape. You needed to see happiness and songs. And so he just hit it right on the head, right? Good guy. I know a lot of you believe that Walt was a bad dude. You're a fucking deep state wet dream if you think Walt was a bad guy. That's exactly what they did to him after he died, which is to put all their Epstein shit on Disney so you would have that thought, and then they get to walk free, right? Same thing they did to Steve Jobs after he died. They rushed out 2 movies to make Steve look like shit. Was the guy perfect? Fuck no. Did he may have he fucked us with the deep state? He may have. But they needed to revise his entire life to make him look like a giant asshole. Okay, so go to SpaceX. The world sucks. Gasoline's $7 to $8 in this world. Inflation just went up in America to a record height since 1982. House prices are insane. No one can afford to move in anywhere. You know, it's like I'm in the middle of this move right now, and you should just, for the price I pay for this house, it's the price of a average 1-bedroom apartment in this town. It's unbelievable, right? All right. So then someone says they're going to Mars. Why not? Fuck, man. Why don't you say you're going to the sun, right? They try to prop this guy up for his, communication satellites being over that war zone. Okay. Well, all right. I've seen videos of his satellites, and they all go flying in unison over the camera. They're in non-geocentric orbit. Geocentric orbit, the difference is about 30,000 miles up from where he puts his stuff normally for a cheap price to where you need it to be in a geocentric orbit, which is like 30,000 feet roughly, or miles, I mean. You got to really insert it deep. No one pays attention. They just seriously do not have the mental aptitude to watch a non-geocentric orbit technology suddenly be claimed to be geocentric. You would have never seen them spread out in a little array had they not been inserted into the right altitude. You don't insert them until they're at the right altitude, which means you'll never see them. They're stars because they're just right overhead as everything works out, right? But I'll tell you what, the other one is that we all know that, stock markets are all insider trading for the people, the investment banking houses that make the big money off of it, right? We know that. They control the prices by buying and selling. Play a video game with stock markets in it, like Railroad Tycoon, and you'll find out you manipulate the market just by buying and selling. You can make your partner or make your competition go bankrupt. But the other big thing that hatched in a legal way is they've always wanted to create phony organizations and have phony products that legitimize the price of a stock to go up. So they get in low, they float the stock up with false reasons to have earnings, false earnings, just you name it, man. And everybody gets to cash out at the top. For anybody serving the deep state, what they end up doing is saying, okay, you help us here, and then we'll tell you what stock to buy in, or what oil leases to buy, and then you're going to get the pop in either one of those categories. Thus, you get a legalized, laundered chunk of cash that you can do things with. And of course, they'll just factor in your taxes. So they'll be like, hey man, I don't want to pay taxes. Like, well, you owe me 10 million, so I need to make 18. So you can pay your taxes and you're out. So we have places like Facebook. Facebook lies about their accounts. They create robot accounts that burn ads, and then they take your money, they take the ad placement money, and then they report those earnings to their shareholders. But it's all been a crime. The whole thing's been a crime. I mean, I think you can assume that at least 1 billion accounts on Facebook are probably robots. Now, they can also push a button and erase the evidence of those robots and say that they're humans that came and went. So it's just foolproof. It's amazing, right? So imagine a space organization that is lying about putting a roadster in orbit, lying about putting communication satellites in geocentric orbit when the proof is in the fucking videos that they release themselves. But the fanboyism is out there because the fanboys need something to tell themselves that the world doesn't suck. And so it's all beautifully coupled. You build the crisis and they will come. You build the crisis over to the left and then you promise them something on the right and you're a fucking false hero. In Los Angeles, they literally told everybody, don't charge your electric car during the day. Okay. Well, how do you get back home? It takes hours and hours and hours to charge these things. You have to microcharge all the time, do a speed charge. We don't have the grid to do it. So much for that bullshit. Britain's talking about introducing a digital currency. Britain, who has turned into the absolute reincarnation of King John's tyrannical world of 900 AD. The tyranny is absolutely off the chain in all UK provinces, from UK to Canada to Australia and New Zealand. It's all one country. Those are subsidiaries of England, of the Queen. Digital currency is going to be the ultimate slam dunk for them to control your entire life, of course. You all know that. You say something they don't like in the narrative, you're not waggable. They're going to starve you out. They're going to starve your shit out. A woman read a book that apparently was written by, I think, the French. I don't think they call him Prime Minister. Maybe the Chancellor, whatever France has, President. I guess Macron's the president. Anyway, it was written in 1981. And she just read the book to us. And the book says, we are going to hatch something. And I think she even alluded to something biological. But he wrote in a book, he says, we're going to trick the world such that the stupid people of the world will get a solution that's going to kill them. And the smart people are going to be the ones that left. Now, the good news is, in this little horrific Georgia Guidestone blurb, I think I posted on the Facebook page for Deep Thoughts Radio. So go to deepthoughtsradio.com and click on the Facebook link with your fake account. And she said, the guy basically claimed if you can make it through the eye of the needle of stupidity, then what's going to come after that's going to be something the world's never experienced, meaning you're going to have a really nice world. Okay. When they admit in so much paperwork, as Rosa Corey taught us, when they admit they want to kill off 97% of the world, you being in that last 3% is pretty slim. The idea that 97% of the world would fall for whatever trick they have up their sleeve is not likely, given the data we've collected in the last 2 years. But remember the big machine learning thing I told you about earlier? Imagine that they look at the data and they say, look, we want 97% of the people to fall victim to our next thing. And so they keep using the big machine to figure out what is that going to be? How intense does the threat need to be? A lot of people are worried about a nuclear problem, right? My only instinct on this is that the bad people of the world might set one off and blame it on the good people of the world to kick it off, and then they have some method of stopping it. But I mean, the thing is that America probably won't be a big target of the retaliation. But it depends on how it's spun. But the dude over there knows who's playing the game. He knows. We don't know, but he knows. He knows exactly everybody. So if they pull a fake event, well, he's going to know exactly who did it. Now, there's been some absurdities, okay, which is that, one of the things that they did was secure Chernobyl really fast. It is my instinct that they secured that area because they didn't want a fake event to occur at that area blamed on them. Now, that reactor melted down. It vaporized its rods either into the sky or it created what's called the elephant foot. It's in the basement. You can't move the elephant foot because it is one of the heaviest objects that's ever been created by man inadvertently. The weird thing about the elephant foot is they say it's super radioactive. However, the first shot taken by a robot shows a human being about 10 feet away on a computer trying to change something, which the computer should have fried, the robot should have fried, the filming should have fried. This is 85, right? And the dude is still alive to this day. So he's in the room with supposedly millions and millions of rads, and he's just fine. So how did he survive, right? So the facility is in a solid state right now. There is no fission going on due to the proximity of rods to each other. That's an active reactor. But they pumped this out 3 days ago that the power was lost in Chernobyl, and oh my God, it could cause the next greatest thing. No, it won't. What would make that happen? The enclosure they built over that facility, I believe, has walls 10 or 12 foot thick of concrete, and there's no better insulation against stray electrons than concrete. The way that it's chaotically, chemically dried catches all of the stray electrons. Then there was supposedly a fire. Well, it was all over TV, man. Wagging that dog. All those boomers, man, that ducked and covered when they were children. It was for them. Turns out it was a training facility next door to the actual reactor where they actually do practice those sorts of fires so they can teach and train people how to put things out. So it was never in any jeopardy, of course, falsely reported. The bad guy said, hey, anybody who reports propaganda and lies on TV disguised as news is going to go to jail for life. And then CNN turned off their feed immediately. The country over there that's being blamed for everything has had all of Western media turned off, all Western social media turned off. They just announced that Pornhub was shut off. And you couldn't have planned it better as the leader of that country to detoxify your citizens from Western wag the dog influences and big machine methodologies than to have that happen to your country. It is the greatest news for his country he has ever had. McDonald's shut down all their stores. Great. What this dude needs to do is pass new laws that says any Western food, even if it's grown there, can never be served here. Pepsi-Cola, which uses the kidney cells from babies, extracted from living babies to create artificial flavors for all their drinks. Can't have that shit over here. The human meat that's inside of McDonald's, they've been caught several times. All kinds of people having to admit it in indictments in court, and it never goes anywhere. All right, so, wow, you stop eating Soylent Green. The thing is that right now, Europe is very weak. Very, very weak. And like I said in the previous episode about all this stuff, if that dude wanted to roll south, big bombs would be the only way to influence him not to do it. I don't think he has any intent of doing that because he knows that would be the repercussion, but he's got them too. Plus, the problem with those big bombs is that they hurt innocent people outright. So how do you get out of the wag the dog equation? Because it's just like if you were to, if you weren't immune from something and you keep exposing yourself to it, and you had to take a pill every day at a particular time to boost your immune system, like vitamin C or B17 or something, zinc, whatever, keep yourself protected. But you keep going in 365 days out of the year to work and trying to help people that have got this problem, and you slip one pill and you forget, you go to work, you step through the front door, you're in the lobby, and you're like, oh my God, I forgot to take my pill. It has to be in my system at least 30 minutes before I get exposed. They'll get you. They will get you through sheer repetition and prolonged exposure to a concept. It might sound a little weird, but I think the number one defense mechanism is you have to start observing yourself as a completely different being, because it will automatically start to help you disengage from information in this realm. What do I mean? Well, the more you perceive yourself as a soul, for instance, the less you start falling victim to body, flesh worshiping. This is something I'm going to start mentioning episodes, but yeah, we worship the flesh. The flesh is where evil can get a hold of you. Your soul is where evil has no access to you whatsoever. And I know that there's this, I'll probably do an episode on it, but there's this, this came out of a conspiracy video, I think in the late 90s. I watched this guy who said he knew aliens, and he tried to speak alien talk in this conference, which was the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. And he said that there's a grid around the planet Earth. I mean, this is where this came from, whether or not you're flat or round or whatever, it doesn't matter. He shows this, because there's a few logos out there that show this defense shield around Earth, and it's all about that. Those are about Star Wars kind of initiatives. But they're trying to hatch this idea that when you die, your soul hits this matrix grid on the outside of the world, and it bounces back to Earth, and you just can't escape the planet Earth because they got you. And the funny thing is, I had to do some research on this, but they were saying that it's a bunch of people who claim to have near-death experiences that are giving them this feeling that this is real. When every single near-death experience I've ever heard of is completely contradictory to that. People love where they go. They don't want to come back, and they're disappointed a lot of times when they do come back. Some of them aren't, some of them are. Because it's a painless realm, for one thing. But what they do is they pollute the pool of reincarnation. So they say that if a boy is born and knows something about the neighborhood or something, that means that he didn't have the choice to stay on the other side. He was bounced back into the womb. Okay. I mean, I hope there's a green room. All indications are that there is one, because there wouldn't be people meeting you on the other side and saying it's not your time. You wouldn't go anywhere where you would meet the Westworld narrators. You wouldn't. You just bounce right back in. But once you start abstracting your consciousness and give your consciousness its own body, its own entity, and stop worrying about your flesh, stop worrying about this time in history for this plane of existence, right? Information and wagging, it wouldn't matter. And again, I've told you guys this story for probably 2 years now. If you just want to play a little mind game to test this water before you substantiate it into something real like the soul, you envision yourself as an alien coming to planet Earth, or the realm of Earth, or whatever you want to call it. And if you were here to simply study humanity at this particular time in history, what would you care about any of the press you ever see? You wouldn't. You would look at everything completely abstract. You'd be like, oh, well, they're telling themselves that. Oh, they're telling themselves that that guy's bad and these people are good. But historically, these people who say that guy's bad have been the reason why everybody dies. Everybody's poverty-stricken. So you have this more abstract, daily, second-to-second churn of your existence. I can't prove this to you, but I'll tell you what. I don't care how old you are. If you, in the next hour, can convince yourself that you're a soul and not a body, that is your true state. And if you have a hard time wrapping your mind around that, simply think of the sphere in your head that is your consciousness. Just call that your soul for now. If you spend the rest of your life, I don't care if you're 19 years old or 89 years old, and you only got a day left, if you can convince yourself in the next hour that you're a soul and not a body, when you die, you will be so utterly compatible with where you're going that you will thank your lucky stars that you spent time here on Earth taking basically advanced placement classes for the afterlife. You will have prepared yourself properly. How do you perceive the afterlife? Well, forget everything you're told about anything negative, okay? Because that's someone trying to play you. You will be in a world of pure light. You will be without any pain because you will divorce your body, finally. Now, whether or not you meet Elvis Presley or whatever, I don't know. But all indications are from people that are just 2 degrees from me. They say it's wonderful, it's painless, it is the entire paradigm of your concerns and worries in the world just disappear, utterly disappear. There's also evidence in my circles that we actually have the capability, I assume if you choose, to come and influence and help those that are still in this realm. But you're staying a light being on the other side while you're doing it. People worry about hell. Well, I've done a lot of bad things in my life, and so I don't think I'm going to get the thing you're talking about. Well, here's an easy thing you can do in the next hour after this episode concludes, right? Hell would only exist if there's a God. So that God, I think, designed us, sustains us every single second. You've never been outside the presence of God because then you would not exist, right? You can talk in this realm to that being. And this is one reason why I think confession was actually a fairly brilliant idea, although they extorted money out of people to do it. The game is not to tell another human being through some great that you sinned and that you want forgiveness. What is actually taking place is that you are speaking out loud the truth of your life, as dirty and as nasty as it might be, and try to get specific, man. Try to say shit that you would never want another human being to hear you say. Put your cell phones away, put all electronic devices away so nothing can hear you say it. Go to some private location. And you can whisper it if you want, right? I think you could think it too, but it's probably easier for us to whisper it out or speak it out loud, because that's how we communicate, right? Keeping your train of thought in a thought for a prolonged period of time is difficult. But it's God seeing you repent for your sins. Some, probably even the majority of them, he may not even care about. Some of them he might care more about than you could possibly imagine. But it's authentically acknowledging what you did, repenting authentically within your soul, because that's all you are, I think will erase virtually all of any type of hell that could possibly be bestowed upon you, even if hell is only standing before God and having to admit that stuff for the very first time in the utter presence of God, as opposed to doing it when you could do it through like a little letter or an email, right? If you could write God an email, like, yeah, I'm really sorry about that one. And then at least when you get there, you're like, you know what I did, I'm sorry. And it's a little less intense. So if you're worried about that realm, just find a place and you're going to feel amazing, even just doing it by yourself. You'll feel amazing. But my key is to say, be exhaustively efficient in what you think you did wrong. I mean, who you might have hurt, whatever thoughts you had, whatever actions you did. Because the chances are, God understands that you evolve as a being. And so you were different at 10 years old, 20 years old than you were at 50. So you did those stupid things when you were young. Even just a year's worth of growth. In this day and age, oh my God, don't you feel like you're 10 years older in the last 2 years? Some of my friends have only been awake for 2 years. And they have completely, tell me all the time, they feel completely reborn now that they've seen the light. So seeing yourself as a soul, forget about organized religion. I mean, you can use that if that works for you, but this is all between you and God, man. There is no man between you and God. There is no man that has to baptize you to get to God. You've never been outside of God's presence, trust me. You can't do it, okay? You can't do it. But if you do baptize yourself, that's an act of love towards God. So again, just like a confession where you're speaking out loud, it's not about the priest in the other side of this chamber. A baptism is you telling God, I love you and I'm committed to you. So it is a beautiful thing between you and God, right? And you could feel utterly amazing doing that now. You hopefully like the church you do it in, because they're going to want to keep you as a member. But quite frankly, anyone can baptize anybody. That's the truth, man. You know, even in the Bible, what was it? Jesus like telling Peter, you got to baptize me right now. He's like, I can't baptize you. You're the Son of God. And he's like, do it. And they did it. I just heard that Australian guy. That dude's been throwing down, man. He said the brilliant statement, which you all know, which is, if the evil people of the world are moving their mouth, they're lying. Because they're good at what they do, right? They lie. That's what they do. So you got to wonder, you know. Plus there's the 80-20 rule of wagging. Tulsi Gabbard. Stop telling me that bitch is anything other than a fucking deep stater with her big pyramid photograph with their hands in the pyramid, you know. That chick, for me, she is so unintelligent that when I see her talk, I see all of the deceptive body language behaviors of her erratic eye movements and trying to stay on track. It's almost like she's got an earpiece and she's like, say that thing, say this thing, and she's all scatterbrained. But she's a pretty face. And they understood AOC attracts the left for a pretty face. And even though Tulsi's a Democrat, she's running around on, you know, conservative channels pretending to be, you know, basically a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? So be aware that they're using every mechanism for your instincts to support a particular personality, right? Just remember, you know, the Mockingbird Project never ended from the mid-50s, where the intelligence agencies bought off all of the news agencies, which is now every talk show, everybody's bought off, right? And it's bad. I mean, it's like they'll give you an illness and they've got the cure. They got not the cure, but they have a sustainable treatment for you, right? And so you'll get a show like Montel Williams, right? Didn't he come down with MS or something? And they just bait that guy. You better say this, you better say that, so you're sick, right? And you can call it MS. It's not really MS, but we've got this little drug you're going to take, and if you don't take it, you know, we're just going to fuck you up, right? Say what we want you to say. The only reality that really exists is inside your head, man. And if you have friends and family that you trust through extensive conversations and seeing their intent, then you can add those to your roster. But just understand, they could get wagged between the last conversation you had and the next conversation you have. And so you will be instinctively trusting people because for a while they were okay. And again, they feed you 80% truth, 20% lies. And there's a lot of folks out there that do that, right? And, you know, and then as we're trying to figure things out between us, we're going to have things wrong, right? So anyway, I know you feel me. I think this one's so important, so utterly important. And I just leave you with a little story. It's unrelated to this. I have been uploading and have uploaded every single video from this channel onto a backup channel. And as I applied, they all go in as draft. And so they're not published in any way, shape, or form. But when you add a thumbnail, it goes from draft to unlisted. At that point, it kicks off the censorship. And a shit ton of videos that are totally rolling clean on this channel, because they were published before the censorship started, are getting kicked off. I've already got a strike on that channel, and not one video has been made public. When you submit a rebuttal or whatever, an appeal, they don't read it. They don't read it at all. Just the bot goes in and, that's still bad. It's deleted. The video is utterly deleted. But they nailed one called legislated beliefs, which is still on this channel. They nailed one called toxins, which is on this channel. And so it is phenomenal to see that that's the way we've actually got our videos on here, is that they were grandfathered in because the policy had changed and they haven't done a retroactive check on videos. Unbelievable, right? But anyway, if you haven't been to deepthoughtsradio.com, please go. Everything's up there, audio, video, all the social media links, most of them independent, non-censored. All New Remastered Season 1, a store. And for those of you who contribute on PayPal and Patreon, thank you so much. I'm much slower right now because I've been packing up my house, working my butt off. It's going to be really interesting to see where we can record. A friend of mine's offered her house, so I'll probably be able to record there. But it's going to be a weird one for several months until I land in a new location, because I'm not going to be signing up for any new living arrangements for a while. This bubble needs to pop because it is utterly out of control here in Southern California. So, if I'm a little bit slower, that's why. Anyway, take care of yourself and someone else, and I'll see you in the next Deep Thoughts. Over now.